Hello and good evening. My name is Kenneth. I'm the band and orchestra director here at Sarasota High School, and I'm so happy to welcome you to our fall concert landscapes, featuring the Commander Jazz Band, who are in front of you now, our orchestra, and the Admirals, our top jazz band. So tonight we start with our Commanders. These are first-year jazz players, and sometimes they're instrumentalists that don't really play the instruments that they're on. So I have some flute players who are playing saxophone, and some saxophone players playing trombone in this group, which is great. And it's an awesome experience. So tonight we've got two tunes to play for you. I'm just going to tell them to you right off the bat. It's called Jummpin' Jellybeans by Dean Sorensen, and Darker Shade of Gray by Dean Sorensen. All right, Dean Sorensen is I believe he's a professor of jazz at the University of Minnesota. And he's a trombone player. He's created so many different methods books for beginning jazz, and I use one of the methods. I use a book for teaching beginning jazz, and it's always awesome. And this first tune, Jummpin' Jellybeans, is just like a solid tradition that the kids always love, and even my kids in the top jazz band ask me, "Can you play Jummpin' Jellybeans again?" So we really, really hope you enjoy Jummpin' Jellybeans. emphasis is taking things that they already know, from contour band, and trying to incorporate jazz around the world, which is just a little bit different. We swing notes, we do things a little bit differently. But the best part about it is the creativity side of things. As you saw, each one of them got a chance to do a solo, right? And that allows them to open up the doors, and we learn scales, and we learn different things to help facilitate the improvisatory nature that follows in jazz. And so, it gives them a chance, and I'd like to introduce all the soloists quickly because they're going to play again in the next song, all of them. So our first soloist was Eva. Stand up, Eva. Next was Jason. Then we had Dylan on saxophone. We had Surrey on saxophone. And then lastly, Angel on trombone. And specifically the last two here, Surrey and Angel. Like I said, Angel is a saxophone player turned trombone, and then and Surrey is flute player turned saxophone. So it's really, really cool. So our next tune is based off of the modal jazz. If any of you, I'm pretty sure you all know the name Miles Davis. His Kind of Blue album was a landmark album that really played around in modal jazz. So this is kind of Dean Sorensen's play on it to emulate like a rainy afternoon or rainy evening. So here is a darker shade of gray. Before we move on to our next part, which is our orchestra, I want to thank a couple of people in here. There's these 3 people in our rhythm section. We've got Zeki on guitar, Izzy on bass, and John on we don't have players in the class for those instruments, so they came in from the Admirals jazz band and basically sight read most of the stuff and put it all together with us this afternoon. So give them a round of applause. Alright, so with that being said, give us just a few minutes of transition and then we'll be back with the orchestra, alright? Alright, we're back. Okay, so the name of our program tonight is Landscapes because I wanted to take a sort of journey across different types of landscapes. And so the very first tune is by a wonderful composer named Susan Day. She is a string educator, violinist, and composer, and she wrote this first piece called Big Sky Country, kind of that Montana-esque area, you know. And she was trying to emulate what it would feel like musically to be out in that area. So you'll hear some moments where it's very fast, and it's kind of a cool Western type melody. It really does feel like you're in that part of the country and you're seeing all of these things. So I hope you enjoy Susan Day's Big Sky. next piece is by a famous wind band, and he does a lot of orchestra too. Composer, his name is Brian Aldridge, and he's really good at writing for younger groups and making music that is challenging and interesting all at once. You'll hear it in this piece that we're about to play next by. It's called Sunset Suspended. So another part of our landscape, like the sunset. And it's just kind of one of those moments where we look and we just wish sometimes at twilight, even when the sun's setting, to just keep that little sliver of time, just to remember how beautiful that moment is. So here is Sunset Suspended by Brian Bowman. So lastly, we have played the music of this composer last year, and I've been lucky enough to meet this composer a couple times. I go to a clinic or a convention in Chicago, Illinois called the Midwest Band Orchestra Clinic, and I've stopped by his booth and I've talked to him a couple of times and really tried to dig into his music because he's a really cool writer. His name is Chris Pilsner. Last year we did a piece of his called Eventide for NEA, and it was a really big hit with the students, and they loved it. And I was struggling to figure out a theme for the orchestra. I was picking music, just trying things, and I wasn't really sure where I was going yet. And this was the piece that solidified it all together. It was the easiest for me to figure out right after that. I know exactly what I'm going to do. So Chris Pilsner wrote this piece called Atlantis of the Sand. And this is about an ancient city, I think it's called Bar or something like that, that is alleged to have been buried in sand a number of centuries ago. And so he imagined what that would be like and started to write a piece of music. I played it for these guys first time, just the recording of it, and they went, "So when are we getting it?" And I went, "Okay, this will be fun." So I really hope you enjoy Chris Pilsner's Atlantis of the Sand. So can I have my jazz band, my Admirals jazz band folks up here? So we're going to do a quick transition, but in the meantime, instead of you just sitting here watching us get ready, basically, I'd like to introduce you to one of our violinists. This is Jeremy Hughes. All right. Jeremy is a junior. All right, and he was the first violin in the 9-10 All-State Orchestra last year, and he has been working on a solo repertoire for violin that's pretty famous. It's the Mendelssohn Violin. So we're going to play a very small clip of it so that you guys get a taste. And while in the process, jazz band's going to try to get everything ready, raring to go for the next performance, all right? So just give us a couple seconds to get everything situated, and then we'll get started. famous Don Menza chart that was made famous by the Buddy Rich Band called Groovin Hard. We're taking you kind of on a musical journey, so we got some swing, we got some rock, some funk, we got everything in between. So you'll really enjoy this. Right now, we're going to do a standard classic by famous saxophonist Charlie Parker. And Charlie Parker was known for his virtuosic playing on the saxophone and being able just to rip up and down the floor. And so he made this really, really cute tune that the kids call it elevator music because it kind of sounds like it. But it's this Latin groove and it's just a lot of fun to listen to. So here is Charlie Parker's My Little Suede Shoes. We had Rick Maurice on the drum set back there. And then we had Brianna Cardinal on trumpet. So we've gone from pretty hard swing to really, really light Latin. Now we're gonna really, really start grooving here. This was a tune that was made famous by Herbie Hancock. But then was picked up by a famous trumpeter, Maynard Ferguson. And these kids have been begging me to play this piece for, I don't know, God knows how long, since I think even when I started here, they wanted me to play it. And none of those kids are here anymore. So I figured it was finally time, and it's just fun. So there's a ton of solos on this one. I'll let you know who they are as we go, at the end of everything, but I really hope you enjoy our rendition of Herbie Hancock's Chameleon. solos in that one, right? So we started off with Jacob Hunnell in the back on trumpet. Then we went to Jack on tenor sax. And we went to Logan on piano. Then John Curry on trumpet, or trombone. And then we finished up with Zeki on the guitar. All right, this final selection here is harkening back to classic rock, okay? With a group that's probably known as a one-hit wonder. I've had the luxury of playing with a number of rock groups over the course of my career and being able to just kind of groove and have some fun. And this piece I played several times in my lifetime. And the students really loved it, and they dug it the minute I handed it out, so it was a match made in heaven. This piece is made famous by the Ides of March, and it is titled Vehicle. There will be a number of solos in there. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head here. It's going to be Miguel, that's right, Miguel on sax. Then it's Gabe on trombone. And it's Brooke on bari sax. John Curry on trombone. And then Zeki on guitar. I just figured I'd get this out of the way because it's last tune, do it now forever with full melodies. I would be remiss if I didn't do this part too. Sorry, this is like the things that I think about at the last possible second. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the admin for supporting the arts here at Sarasota High School. There's a volleyball game happening right now on top of our concert. So they're kind of stretched thin right now in two places at once. So I just wanted to make sure before everybody left today that I made it very clear I'm very, very grateful for our admin here for supporting everything that we do. So can we give them a round of applause? Next is you, our parents. There wouldn't be concerts without you being able to drive your kids to here and enjoy the process. And you saw them from the very, very beginning when they were making all of the awful noises, and now they're at a point in time where they're making all of the wonderful noises, right? So without your support, these kids would have been doing something else, and we're really happy that you're here in this moment. So another round of applause for your parents. And lastly but not leastly is I'd like to thank the team that helps us here. Mr. Lieber is the other band director at Sarasota High School who helps out around here. And we have Mr. Saris, who's over there on the camera right now. I know he doesn't like to get noticed, but I want to make sure that I notice him every time. He is a rock star, and whenever I get to concert day and I need something crazy, he's the first person that is there to do it, and it's just amazing. So everybody give him a round of applause. That's it. So now I present to you the vehicle. so much for coming out again. We are so happy to have you out. Our next concert is October the 14th. It features our ensemble, our symphonic band, and our marching band. So we really highly encourage you to come on out and see it. It's going to be a wonderful night of music. The title of the theme of that concert is called Majesty of the British Isles. So it's all British music. It's really, really fun. That being said, all of my orchestra folks, all my Mandarin jazz folks, come on up and bring all of this stuff back to the band room, and then the rest of you all have a nice evening, all right? Thank you for coming out.